Welcome to the Epic Company Culture Podcast, where your host, Josh Sweeney, will give you, the business leaders, HR professionals, and company culture aficionados, the knowledge you need to take your company culture to the next level.
Hello, fellow culturists, and welcome to the Epic Company Culture Podcast. Before I get started, I'd like to thank Prototype Prime for this amazing podcast space. Today's series is the Sales Culture series of the podcast. We have Eric Mercado from Force Marketing. He is the Chief Sales Officer and is going to tell us all about sales culture at Force. Eric, thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Well, love to start off here a little bit about yourself and Force Marketing.
Cool. So company's about 14 years old. I started with the company about 12 years ago. We have a central focus on the automotive vertical. So we work with just under 1,200 dealerships nationwide, all different franchises, and we provide digital, direct, and email marketing services. So we are basically a measurable marketing arm for the automotive vertical. And seen tremendous growth the last 4 years. Last year, 170%, and looking to do the same thing this year. So it's been a good run.
Nice. That's huge growth, hopefully attributed to all of your sales management prowess.
Some of it. Some of us, we have a really good product.
Yeah,
right?
that too.
So
good marketing team, maybe.
Good marketing team. Yeah, good marketing team. So we connected the dots pretty well.
Yeah, we'll spread the love across the team for sure. So, 12 out of 14 years, you've seen some significant growth. Yeah. Probably significant growth for yourself in a lot of ways, I'm guessing. Sales culture. Tell us about sales culture at Force.
So it's cyclical, like in I think most organizations, right? Our vertical is very seasonal, so there are peaks and there can be valleys. The one thing that we try to preach is consistency, right? We have some gamification tools that we use that kind of keep everybody aware of what their peers are doing and where they stand as far as the rankings. And no one ever wants to be kind of the lowest person on the totem pole. Right. We built our culture really off of competitiveness. So one of the things that I've always liked to do, is hire athletes, former athletes, people that either played, high level high school sports or even collegiate. We even have some ex-professional athletes that work for us. They tend to work well as a team. They tend to always want to compete. They tend to always want to be top of the board, and they tend to outwork a lot of the non-athletic people that we've come before hired, right? So one of the things that we try to do is build that kind of competitiveness that says, listen, like you don't only want to lose to your peer, you just don't want to lose to the field, right? So that's something that we've built as a very competitive culture internally, and then thus that actually helps us externally, right? So a lot of our competition, the vertical, it's a very competitive vertical. They haven't built that same culture. They've kind of been really relying on the product, right? The product to sell itself, and maybe to be a little bit more consultative, where we're a little bit more, listen, this is what it does, this is how it works, and how quickly can we get it to work for you. We try to shorten our sales cycle and be really, really competitive and make everything turn around pretty quick for us. So that's our culture. Our culture is, if I had to state it in one word, it's like competitiveness, super competitive.
Yeah, that's awesome. I mean, I know a lot of the high-performing sales cultures I've worked with and worked in, competitiveness was a key attribute of that. Yeah. They have the leaderboard when you walk in, and you can see who's on top. And if it's not for sales, it's for activities, it's for leading indicators, and all sorts of other factors. You mentioned gamification. What do you use for gamification? Do you use a certain software, or is it just kind of leaderboards in your CRM?
So we have a couple different tools. We have a tool called Wide Angle, and then we have another tool called 5 and 15. Okay. Both of those tools integrate with Salesforce. So one of the things we've done is kind of mapped all the different fields that have to do with like revenue generation, contract closing, and we do everything monthly, right? And we've really set up our business development team to be straight hunters. Like none of them have to actually manage accounts. They just go, they hunt, they kill, they bring the food home, and then we have a team of people that are farm it. We call them farmers, right? Yeah. Basically, they grow the business, they keep the business, they're in charge of retention, customer service. For us, it is a kind of a very zero to hero mentality every single month. That being said, all of their goals are very realistic based off of that. So tools like a Wide Angle, which is a tool that's out of the Atlanta Tech Village, actually. Mm-hmm. And it's a very, very small startup. I think he's got less than 100 accounts total. It's a really cool tool. It has some really cool kind of jickety attributes to it. Like, if you get a sale, there you can customize it to where a great white comes out of the ocean, when it rings the bell and the gong, a great white comes out and spits out the number of the sale, and
Nice.
it makes it fun.
Yeah.
And then 15.5 is a little bit different. That's more of a weekly meeting tool, weekly meeting application, where at least bi-weekly we're meeting one-on-ones rather than everything be as a team, so they can see how it's impacting them on the board, but they can also one-on-one talk to management to figure out how can I get higher on the board, what am I doing wrong, and also it gives us the autonomy to set deliverables for them. So 15.5 is another really cool tool that if you're an organization, you believe in one-on-one meetings, it is probably the best in the business. That allows you to kind of set deliverables, set expectations, basically create an action plan in a systematic way that they can follow. So you don't have too many people that lag too long. So those are two tools that we use for gamification.
Nice. And then you have Salesforce that brings all of that together, which I'm
Yes.
sure you're looking at every day and managing.
Yes.
With that, what habits, so you have the tools on one side, but what habits do you like to instill in the sales team to ensure that they get everything done?
So activity breeds activity, right? So the way that we work is we kind of have a point system that we follow, and every KPI has its own set number of points, right? So we've kind of reverse engineered using some different tools that there are very specific, sets of activity, the very specific ideal customer, ideal prospects that generate very specific results. So we kind of instill those numbers to them, and it's great because you'll see in the months where certain people excel and certain people fall behind. If you look at their previous 30, 45 days of their points,
right,
you'll see the people that excel always have the higher points. There's a direct correlation. So we've built a kind of a point system, which also adds to the gamification, right? No one wants to have the lowest points on the board, right?
Right.
And if you're on the bottom too long, and you're not right sizing yourself, or at least showing the effort in the points, we get rid of you. I mean, it's very simple. That's the way the culture works. So our team is very dialed in. They know their expectations when they set their first foot in the door. They know exactly what's expected of them. For the first 3, 6, 12 months, they have a great earning opportunity. It's really a matter of, are they willing to put in the work, right? So we just measure the work. The outcomes come, right? That's the best way to say that we've built our culture.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of Jeb Blunt, and in his book Fanatical Prospecting, he talks about that. He has, I think the scenario is a friend comes to him, is like, I'm in this sales lull, and he's like, look, well, your sales cycle is 90 days and it's March. What'd you do in December?
Yeah.
And it's looking back and saying, well, you were off on vacation and everybody's out. You weren't hitting your activity numbers in December, and that's why you're having a bad March. And there's nothing you could do.
Yeah.
You can try and overcome it in March and triple down on activities, but that's not going to help you until 3 months from now.
Exactly. What we do now, we see the fruits of later. Our sales cycle is anywhere between 6 and 7 weeks, right? So, a lot of the work that we're doing, in early February doesn't come to fruition until late March, early April. And one of the things that we try to stress is that we're not judging you off of your now results when you're net new. We're judging you after your 91 days. That's when we expect to see some return. We've seen it. We've seen it 9 out of 10 times, right? Because it's very easy in month 1 to figure out if somebody's willing to do it or they're not willing to do it, right? We've made it very simple in our process, right? You don't have to travel as much in our business. You can click a button to make a phone call. It auto logs the call in the system, right?
As easy as it gets.
Yeah, you have a team of people that'll enter your opportunities in once you get one. There's not very much you have to do besides activity. Besides be active, be in front of opportunities, pitch our product. When you need to travel, but that all applies to your point system. In-person meetings actually increase your points. So a lot of our sales team likes to travel. They like to go get in front of them, as many of these opportunities as possible.
Yeah.
So again, it's so easy to measure success these days. And it took us, probably 5 or 6 years to reverse engineer that funnel to see, like, here's what our expectations were, here's what we're getting. Let's go back and look what we did to get that, right? How many demos did we do? How many demos showed? How many demos closed? What was our average size opportunity? How much activity did it get to get those number of demos? Okay, cool. Now we know to hit these goals, we have to get this many demos. Well, do we have enough people to do that? No, we don't. Or do we have enough? Well, we have too many, right? They just need to do more work. So it's not hard to do. It's simple math actually when you break it down with all the tools that you have today.
Yeah, you mentioned earlier the ability, everybody has goals, but they're goals that are measurable and that they can hit, right?
Yeah.
They're achievable.
Yeah.
And what I've seen over time is the ones that aren't achievable are normally set by managers who don't know those numbers.
Yes.
They don't know that, 60 calls equals 1 demo and 10 demos equals 1 deal, and reverse engineer that and say, how many calls do we make a week? And, well, we don't have enough people. They just say, here's how much in sales you have to have. And by the way, there's no more people. And it's like, none of the numbers add up. That's, and then everybody just gets disgruntled because they don't hit the numbers and things like that.
We've had those moments too.
Yeah.
I mean, over my 12 years, I wasn't always the head of sales, right? I was a salesperson, right? So I remember when I first came in, the owner of the company, he was the head of sales. And he said, hey, here's what I need you to do. And I said, okay, cool. Well, let me know how I can do that. Who here has done that was my first question, actually.
Yeah.
And he said, well, it was Jeff. I remember Jeff. I said, okay, you mind if I just shadow Jeff for the first 3 to 4 weeks, figure out what Jeff does, what's made Jeff successful. One of the first questions I asked Jeff was, I said, how long have you been doing this? And he said, I've been in the automotive vertical for 25 years. I said, wow, well, this is my first day in the automotive vertical, right?
Like,
said,
that's not promising.
Well, this guy's got 25 years of relationships, And I asked him, I said, Jim says, like, you're the best guy. You've hit these numbers. Let me know what you do on a daily basis. He goes, I call all my friends from the automotive vertical. So I was like, well, there you go. There's a dud. I'm not gonna be able to do that, right?
Next guy.
I don't know anybody in the automotive vertical. So then I said, okay, cool. Let's go back and figure out who's our ideal customer, right? Because I had come from a sales job at another company. We were very, we had this thing. It was like everything was IDC, ideal customer, mm-hmm. Focus on your ideal customer. So I said, who's our ideal customer? And the owner said, anybody with money. And I said, okay, fantastic. So at this time, the company had like 9 people, right? It was a very, very small company. I took the job because the previous company I had sold. And I said, I'm going to shadow Jeff. So I shadowed Jeff more for his word track, and his word track was good. And then a couple months later, the owner came to me and he said, okay, you're doing well. You got some sales. You've done good. I need you to do more. I need you to hit these numbers. And, here's how quickly I need you to do it. And by the way, I'm giving you another region because we don't have enough people to cover it. So then I really, really very quickly, so what you said earlier, realized I didn't have the bandwidth to cover both. I didn't have the bandwidth to prospect both. But it was we had a really good leader at the time who was open to suggestions. So I said, listen, I make a suggestion. Give me 2 other people that can help me manage this region, and I can turn it around at this time. So he said, okay, well, let's go talk to Jeff, see if Jeff wants that too. If Jeff wants 2 people, then we'll give him 2 people. Jeff didn't want 2 people. Jeff didn't want to manage anybody. I said, fine. Gave me 2 people. So our little region outperformed the rest of the company. There was like 6 other sales guys. And we were doing really well. Our margins were high. We were turning sales quicker. And then the owner came to me like 3 months later. He said, okay, cool. So I need you to hire like 10 more people like the 2 guys that you did. Right. Because the numbers just panned out, right? Yeah. So at the 3rd or 4th years when we started to really figure out how, like, what level of activity does it take to hit these goals that we have? Because 1 through 3, we didn't have the same tools. I mean, at that time, we didn't have Salesforce, right? We were using spreadsheets. This is 12 years ago. They had ACT, but they didn't know how to use it, which was like the initial CRM.
Right.
And then about 3 years later, I actually went to a sales thing here in Atlanta, and there was a guy from Salesforce speaking, and he did something in his demo where he pulled up a customer profile. I was blown away by it, and I was like, we have to get this. So did it. Never looked back. Salesforce is a phenomenal tool. Like it's our Bible, right? Like, if you want a good one-liner, we literally tell people in our office, if it's not in Salesforce, it didn't happen. Yeah. Like there's no like, oh, I spoke to Buddy and got the deal done, or I'm working on it. It's like, cool. Where's the opportunity in Salesforce? What stage is it at? What's the revenue, right? So it's been a progressive thing over 12 years, and I think any small business that gets to, we went from $200,000 in revenue to just shy of $75 million now, right? So like, it's been very progressive, but it's been like, learning lesson. And sales has been a big part of that. Also, our support team's really good. We don't lose very many accounts. So
very cool.
That's a big thing.
Yeah, I know in CRM, I mean, that's also another kind of sales culture item is I've run into so many companies where, they're always trying to adopt the CRM and people aren't using it. And then I run into others similar to yours where it's like, if it didn't happen in the CRM, it doesn't exist. Like if it's not in there, it didn't happen. Yeah. And that's just the rule. And it doesn't give people outs. It doesn't give them excuses or anything else. It's like, well, I can't count the activity because it never happened. All you have to do is click log, or, in yours, it's integrated the phone system. All you have to do is click dial and go, so. It's
crazy. I mean, we've done a good job. And I think a lot of good sales cultures do a good job reinvesting back in sales, right? Like the engine that drives the operation is kind of how our CEO says. The guys are the engine that drives the operation. So like what you need, if you can present a good enough case, we'll get it for you, right? Because obviously we look at it as, does it create a higher return on investment? Does it make your sales cycle shorter? Does it increase margin? Does it increase your activity levels, which we know will generate more sales? And what's that cost component, right? Is it small? Salesforce, no brainer, right? Now we're up to, I don't even know what we spend in Salesforce a month, but it's huge. We also use another tool that I thought was pretty cool, which is a local Atlanta company. We know the CEO pretty well. His name's Kyle Porter, but Sales Loft. Yeah. And I'm sure you guys, if you're talking to salespeople in Atlanta, you're talking about Sales Loft. That tool is phenomenal as well. And that even makes it easier. So there's layers of easiness kind of baked in. But, it's funny is you can't get everybody, you can lead a horse to water, but you can't get everybody to drink, right? Right. So there are certain people that very quickly you will recognize just will not use the tool they are given. They prefer the old way or the hard way or what they did in their previous career. And that's where the tough part comes in. That's my job to kind of wean those people out. Yeah. Like I don't need them.
Yeah, that's a tough turnaround. I mean, I know the evolution of the tools in sales, even when you're interviewing nowadays, when we're helping clients interview salespeople and figure out, are they the right fit? Yeah. We have to go to the tools. Yeah. Because, I've been in CRM training and provided CRM training where, the person, we tell them to install the app and they kind of hold up their phone like they don't know how to get to the app store. Yeah. And then I go into other high-performing sales environments where, those salespeople are just as much salespeople as they are technologists. Mm-hmm. They want the tools. Yeah. I know one mention came up the other day where I asked a person, well, what kind of activities do they have to have? It's like minimum 60. Yeah. Minimum 60 a day, along with, creating quotes and everything else they have to do. And he goes, but we're trying to get it to 120. So, but the only way you can do it is with a sales loft. If you have the tools and the automation, you can get to 120. Mm-hmm. Other than that, it's not even doable. Yeah. It's too much of a burden. If you don't have the click to call and the tools and everything else, those activities are going to be lower.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's just time, right? If it takes me 5 seconds to dial a phone number, well, hopefully it doesn't take me 5. Let's say it takes me 3 seconds to dial a phone number. Right. It takes me 0.1 seconds to click a call. Right.
Right. And it gets logged.
And it's logged. So it's going to take me another 3 seconds to log in. And I got to take notes. It's recording my conversation. It's installing a link in Salesforce. So the technology has also provided us in a big way these last couple of years is an opportunity to go back and train. Right. So like when we have these one-on-ones where we're meeting with these salespeople who are frustrated because they're underperforming, what you'll tend to find the first conversation is, I'm not receiving enough inbound opportunity where so-and-so might have, right? And that's why they're doing so well, which provides a training opportunity immediately. Right. Okay, well, let's look at the ones you have received. Let's listen to those calls because it's in there.
Yeah. The script's right there.
And let's see the emails you've sent them.
Yeah.
And let's see if there's an opportunity here where you may have missed where there was a sale available. And it's so funny when you start to turn it back around and show them that, oh, okay, this is why they're making us use this tool. And by the way, I can't point the finger at X, Y, and Z for why I'm failing, or I feel like I'm failing. Sometimes they're not. They just feel like they are.
Yeah. Too many no's that day?
Huh?
Too many no's that day?
Yeah, you know how it is, right? Like sometimes you just got to go to the water, the water faucet, get a glass, and go outside and take a breath of fresh air and jump back at your desk and get after it, right? Like, and the opposing side of that is as soon as you get that yes, you don't need to leave your desk. Like stay at your desk and call the next 15 people that you could potentially get a yes from. Your lowest hanging fruit, you will get more yeses because your enthusiasm level is like an all-time high, right?
Yeah, oh yeah.
That's what I was talking about earlier. Where like sales is waves, man. It's up and downs. It's very, very cyclical. So we've had a lot of luck. Like our churn rate for sales has been low. Most of our reps have been with us 7+ years. And the people that have left because they more so not they couldn't hit their number, in some cases, but more so that they couldn't adopt to progress.
Yeah.
They wouldn't adopt. They would not I need you to do this. And the reason why I'm telling you to do this is so later down the road, I can help you get better. It was like, oh, you're micromanaging me. I don't work that way. And to be honest with you, I get micromanaged. So like my numbers, everything you do reflects a final pie that the owner eats.
It's all scrutinized.
Exactly. So no offense, I have to not micromanage you. I just have to look at your metrics. I have to see if there's something different between you and everybody else that may be a correlation between why you're not doing as well, or you may be doing better. Yeah. Maybe I changed some things that I thought were best practices based off of your performance. So that's from a sales leadership perspective, it can be you can have anxiety, right? Because there's people, these are lives you're dealing with, and you have to measure different attitudes. That's why I truly think we have a very good, no pun intended, but prototype of who our best fit is, and it's somebody who typically has played team sports, super aggressive, super enthusiastic, positive attitude, willing to be a team player, right? Typically, those people you'll find out later on are the most proactive and innovative people in your staff. They're the people that come to you with suggestions on how they can make themselves better.
Yeah.
Where other people will sit in the background and just, okay, well, let's go through the motions, and this is what they told me to do, and
right.
Yeah,
I hear horror stories all the time.
Oh,
it's like, yeah, they hit their call quota. They started calling everybody in California at 4 a.m. knowing they weren't going to be in the office, and I'm like.
Yeah.
What? That doesn't happen.
I've never heard that bad of a scenario.
But I've heard some bad ones for sure.
We've had some similar things. Like, here's your call quota. And, so up front, we're not telling people when they come to work for us that we're recording the calls. It tells them when they make the call, right?
Right. It says recording in front of them.
But there's a purpose for that, right? But, in the first 90, I say the first 90 is as a sales leader of any kind is the most important frame of that person's career at your organization, because it tells you everything you need to know about them. Really in the first 30, but in the first 90, because sometimes people they'll work really hard in the first 30 and then they kind of wean off, and you figured out, oh, it's that they were drinking the Kool-Aid, and then 30 days later they're not seeing the immediate impact because our sales cycle is 6 to 7 weeks, and they haven't figured that out because they might have been selling a $500 widget before they got here.
Yeah.
Our average sale is $28,000. Right, so it's a monthly residual, revenue. So it's a longer time sales cycle, right? So, it's funny when you can immediately tell, like one of the stories that I have is, okay, dude, you're making 45 calls a day. Your point system, your quota, your activity quota for the week is roughly 300. You're not even close.
Right. You're short 15 a day.
In order for you to make that up in these next 3 days, these next week, because the end of the month now, you're going to need to make close to 125 calls a day. And just because it is month 2, I'm going to hold you to that. Right?
Yeah.
I'm going to, because it's your fault you're even here. You're not traveling for business. You're not,
right,
you're not building quota. You're not building quotes. You're not,
there's no distraction.
There's no distraction.
Right.
Your whole job is to build your pipeline of relationships right now, right? That will come to fruition as business. And you'll see that. They'll cheat the system. And those are people I get rid of very quickly because they have no integrity.
It's interesting you bring up recording, because I was talking to somebody the other day that was like, we've gone through all the training. They know how to do it. But again, they have somebody on their team that's been there multiple years. Does well enough, but then they go through the recording and they're like, you're not hitting the key points, you're not hitting this piece, which is what that's kind of the trigger for whether they need the next version up. That's going to lead to a bigger sale for you. And they go through and mark up the script and walk back through the script with them and just continuously refresh that, whether you've been there for 3 months or 3 years. It's just that's the rhythm. Just go through those every day.
It's so funny. Every sales organization has that guy. Or that gal. Very rarely that gal, by the way.
Yeah. Oh, really?
Most of the time, that guy. And I'm not trying to sound chauvinist or anything like that, but there is that guy who refuses. I've seen this more than not. I've hired a lot of girls. I've had a lot of guys. There's always that guy who just refuses to adopt a system, right? But they're a pretty good salesperson.
Yeah.
They might excel at the close. They might shorten the sales cycle. They might have all the intangibles that I talked about: be athletic, be super aggressive, be enthusiastic, be proactive. But you can't truly measure their success or use them as the prototype because they won't follow the system that allows you to see what they did to get there.
Right.
You know, the guy who doesn't log things in Salesforce, but he hits his numbers. So what do you do in that scenario as a sales leader? You know, most owners will tell you, leave them alone.
Yeah. I think the challenge for that is that, you know, we're in this place where like before that would have been fine.
Yeah.
But as the automation, the tools, the sales loft, Salesforce, all this starts to get smarter and incrementally increase the amount of work you can do, at some point when enough companies are using those systems and there's an inflection point, that person will be able to keep up. The other people will hit quota. And I mean, in all the CRM implementations and everything I've ever done, you know, what you're talking about is the top 1%, you know, using all those tools, you know, you guys, you know, there's a few other companies in town that are just, they went from 200,000 to 70 million. But there's not a lot of those.
No.
And that's a big differentiator from what I've seen of inaction. Like that person can go somewhere else and be a top salesperson for the next 10 years if they never adopt tools. But your standards are different, right? They're higher, and the more automation and tools you get, the more it moves that bar up.
Well, that's what we're saying. So like, so the tools, even for the best of the best, it makes them better, right? Like, and that's if they adopt it. It's just, you know, it's the reason why you continue to read, right? Like you continue to learn, right? It's the reason why you go and you continue to work out. If you don't, you know, what happens? So it's important that they adopt the tools. And the other thing is that person, you can't make that person, be the I'm trying to think of the best word here. You don't want everybody else on your team to look at that person like they're doing something right. Because they've been more successful, right? If you allow it too long, you teach everybody else that it's okay to not adopt the tools. And then you, from the top down, then it becomes very hard to measure any success or see what you have to do to be successful. You know, we've literally had, I have a guy right now, I joke about it. I have one guy, and you know, he does well. He's a good salesperson. He's a hell of a closer. I give him that. He's worked with us for about 7 years. And as we've progressed and added new tools, he just refuses to use them. Won't use them. Refuses. But comes close or hits his number every single month. And I've literally had the sit-down conversation with him 100 times saying, hey, man, this is why I need you to do this. Let me help you how to do this. Let me show you. Look how easy it is. You'd rather do this than do this. I don't get it. Like, it's easier. You have it. It's sitting in front of you. It's the same phone. Just make it easy. And, you know, he'll do it for a week and then fall right off. And he'll, you know, I had a bad week. Like, I don't know if it's more of he's got this mindset of like his process makes him lucky. You know, it's like a luck thing, but he refuses. And so I recently, before this year, you know, we set all of our goals for the year. I went to him and I said, listen, here are your goals. You know, 4 years now, I've managed you in 4 years. You just refuse to do the things that I ask you to do. I'll leave you alone. I'm not going to say a word to you as long as you hit your goals 9 out of 12 months. I won't talk to you. All right? Now, there's two sides of the coin. I'm not going to talk to you. I'm not going to bother you. But you also have no chance of becoming a manager here. Because I can't have you training other people to do what you do because from the top down it's immeasurable, right? You know, you are that 1%, and God bless it. You're the 1% that can do great things without any of the tools. The other 99% of the people that work here and come through here have to adopt the technology. They have to. And the reason they have to is because from a company perspective, we have to measure everything to progress, which we have. We've done such a good job in these last 7-8 years of progressing through measurement. Everything, you know, down to time on call, conversation, scripts.
It's hard to plan without a pipeline. You know, there's a lot of impact of not having the data that you need as a business.
Oh, it's unbelievable. Same guy will put, and it sounds like I'm venting. You've probably heard this before, but it's funny. Same
podcast, therapy, you know.
Yeah, it is. It's great, right? The same guy will actually, we have weekly sales meetings. Everybody, I click a button, I see the board, right? I know exactly what it is. And his board's going into the third week is always the lowest. And then I'll get with him and I'll say, hey, listen, you know, what do you have? What do you have? What's in your? Do you have anything else? Is there anything I can help you with? Oh man, I just haven't entered a bunch of the opportunities. I got like 15 more opportunities I'm gonna enter in. Well, when are you intending on entering them in? I'll do it today. The next week we'll come in. Now we're in the 4th week. Last week, closeout week. I'll get with the same guy. Hey man, your pipeline didn't really change from last week. You know, I'm looking at week over week and it's the same. Oh, I'm doing it all day. I'm doing it all day. 3 days left in the month, everything comes in to the pipeline, and and then he gets frustrated when those are the months he misses, and then the next month is like, oh man, I don't know what happened. Well, I told you what happened. You didn't enter your opportunities, and you didn't send the contracts early enough. You stalled on that. I mean, I went as far as to say, dude, just tell this person to do it for you. Like, I got that person for you. Just they will do it. You won't even do that. No, they don't do it right. Like, so it's one of those, like, you can lead a horse to water. You can't make them drink, right? He's done well for us, so I kind of just leave him alone. Yeah. It's one of those things. But
that's a decision to be made. Yeah.
It was a very tough decision for me because it still throws everything off, but I've put kind of what's the word I'm thinking of? A multiplier in the system to kind of figure out where it is.
Yeah. One workaround.
Yeah, the one workaround, which is a cheesy way to do it, But yeah, so that's, our culture I think is the same as most excelling sales cultures, right? It's nothing very different. You have a lot of technology, you have KPIs, you have quotas, you have goals, right? You hit goal, you do it 3 months out of the year, where you're well above like what your quota was. There's some things to be had, right? Some bonuses, some awards, some travel. We used to buy our guys suits, that was a cool experience. Tailored suits.
Like the whole tailoring experience.
A lot of these guys come in from college or a job where they might have worked sales, but like I said, maybe selling widgets or something that they never had to dress up for. And when we're going to present, multi-million-dollar contracts, like getting them a tailored suit.
Yeah.
That first tailored suit, man, they want to get that every single month after they get the first one. So it's kind of fun.
Get hooked once you look good.
Oh, yeah. Confidence
Awesome.
boost.
So last question I have for you for today is all about, what you're looking to do in the future. So as a sales team, what are your next steps? What's the next evolution of enhancing the sales culture at Force for you?
I think now it's growth, right? Like, so we've reached a point where our team does well. You always want more, but they're doing well. We've made some movement changes where some of our best business development people, we've made account managers because there's a really good correlation between the way they can establish relationships and keep them and kind of drive upsell and cross-sell opportunities into our organization. And we're now backfilling with new, right? So in the last 4 months, we've hired some in-market reps. That's a little bit different of a challenge where they're in Texas or in Ohio or in New Jersey or Virginia. And our next goal is to get, a handful more of those, and then a handful more in the market, in our office. People that are right at HQ that can learn every single day. So that's our goal, is to grow by just building a bigger business development team. And then after we hire those people, our goal is to backfill with layers of like more business development centric people, and then just have those people be closers. Because then they'll have been trained, they'll have some time under their belt. Yeah. And we did that a couple years ago with some success. But again, we made a shift from hunters and to farmers, and a lot of those people became some of our account managers, where they make a good living and they don't have to do as much work.
Yeah.
So we're probably going to reinstall that layer in the next year as well. That's our goal.
Fantastic. Well, thank you for sharing, and thank you for being on the podcast.
I appreciate your time, guys. It's cool.
Thank you for tuning in to today's episode of the Epic Company Culture Podcast with Josh Sweeney. If you enjoyed this content, please subscribe on iTunes, SoundCloud, or Stitcher. For additional content and transcripts, visit epicculture.co. If you have questions or topics you would like us to address or expand on, tweet us at epicculture1 or email at podcast@epicculture.co.